right, back with Jerit Roser. Recruiting has changed dramatically in the time that you've covered it, numerous years. How different is the recruiting landscape now with NIL, revenue sharing? Because I think the Bryce Underwood recruitment is a game changer for people in Louisiana, because now verbal commitments, everybody's like, oh, well, that's a verbal commitment. Like we saw what happened to Bryce Underwood. How is the revenue share in the NIL space kind of just changed how you cover recruiting and how it is at LSU and other schools?
I think certainly locally here, Bryce's recruiting process became kind of that watershed moment or wake-up call or whatever in terms of the perspective. And so you're seeing more people than ever skeptical of what a commitment means or doesn't mean. Obviously, there have always been flips in recruitment that far predates NIL. And whether folks want to talk about it or not, there's always been some money involved in the recruiting processes as well. All of that has just ramped up so exponentially, and so now you see more out front, more public, more people willing to talk about some of these components, and at the same time, you know, the numbers have ramped up too, and so some of these recruitments can now, like Bryce a year ago, really spin on a dime in a quicker, more aggressive way than I think had historically been the case, where it can feel all one way, and then I mean, Godfather offer comes in, and there's only so much a program can do. And I know, as frustrating as this can be for fans, there are prospects I've heard reference their frustration that, you know, nothing they say of their commitment level gets taken as seriously now. You know, some guys in this LSU class who are locked in with LSU and see fans still on Twitter questioning and whatnot and say, man, Bryce really kind of made this tough on us, where no one believes that we're actually locked in. And so it's become an increasingly interesting world to try and navigate and you know, see who's really locked in, who's not. But there's still a lot of passion there for those kids that do want to go to certain schools and, you know, are locked in when they say they're locked in. Yeah,
and I feel like the latest one, I went to Hattiesburg High School, Tristen Keys, the #1 wide receiver in America. I feel like a lot of fans are like worried that that's going to happen. Are you surprised that it's still like with LSU? Because I thought this summer the tides could have changed and that's when it could have happened, but so far so good for the purple and gold.
Tristen is one of the athletes I was alluding to.
Okay,
where he mentioned just how he's felt that there's been skepticism about him throughout, and he kind of looks at how hurt a lot of fans, LSU fans, were last year by how Bryce went, and how that has kind of seeped into how, you know, skeptical that they may be about any subsequent prospect. At the same time, some of these guys aren't always helping themselves in that regard as they continue to take visits and whatnot, and so they don't completely shut the door, but that's their right. It's their recruiting process. It's their one time to go do it like this and make sure that they have all their T's crossed, I's dotted, and feel 100% confident about where they're heading. And at the end of the day, programs have continued to make it a really difficult choice for TK to decide whether he's sticking with LSU, which is a program that I know he feels tremendously passionate about and wants to be a part of that lineage of wide receivers that come through Baton Rouge. But you know, as we talked about with Bryce, some things can change like that.
Edna Carr has 3 kids at LSU right now. They have 2 verbal commits, and Richard Anderson and Aiden Hall. I'm assuming maybe Catholic highs, you know, their school that would be in their way. Is Edna Carr the cream of the crop in Louisiana football?
They look like they have the opportunity to be every bit as good this year as last year. I mean, right in that conversation as the best team in the state. When we drop our Louisiana versus All Y'all preseason rankings, regardless of classification, Carr was the easy #1 choice there. Catholic will be our #2. There's some other great teams up there in the top 10, including some other Catholic League programs. But I think you look at in Division I Select, Carr is the team to beat. Catholic of Baton Rouge has the best chance to beat them, and like we've seen so many years, there will probably be a run-in between the two at some point in the quarters or semis, and it'll be a slugfest and a dogfight and all those things to figure it out. But I know, you know, the John Curtises and St. Augs and company around the New Orleans area want to have their shot to show where they stack up against Carr before we even get to that postseason bracket.
And speaking of some of those Catholic League teams, right now, with your Louisiana versus all y'all rankings, Carr's number 1 in the Catholic League, and then 2 through 8, just throw it all together. I mean, you're a Jesuit grad, and Zyron Forstall leaving for IMG.
Tough.
Definitely might mess a little with Jesuits ranking right now. But right now, it's kind of like any given week, anything can happen in the Catholic League, I think, from 2 to 8. And some people will complain to me to say, wait a second, we can maybe give Edna Carr a race. But I personally see it as everybody else right now.
Yeah, I think we've seen years past where Edna Carr has some great teams and someone gets them in the course of that Catholic League run. It's as tough of a district as there is in the state. I know I saw on social media some debate this week of, is this district the toughest, or is the Catholic Zachary Central, Scotlandville, Woodlawn, Liberty the toughest? And I mean, respectfully, I think even as someone that's lived in Baton Rouge for years now, it's the Catholic League from top to bottom, no doubt, and that they are as competitive as anyone. There's all of that parity there with teams that can be a John Curtis last year, and what was it, 5-5 in the regular season, right around 500, and then they're making that run on to the semis and able to compete with anyone else from around the state, despite having had a rough go through that district run. And I think the Patriots, to me, probably them and St. Aug are kind of the next two that I think have the strongest puncher's chance at challenging Carr. But everyone's tough, and it's going to be a lot of fun all those Friday nights and Saturday afternoons.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick against John Curtis ever. The 2027 quarterback class, I know you've done a lot of stories on these guys so far. It's kind of rivaling possibly being one of the greatest Louisiana quarterback classes ever, huh?
I'm really glad we're talking about this, because I'll tell you right now, our buddy Sam Spiegelman has a little bit of FOMO that I'm here with you and that he's over in Austin getting, not having the opportunity to spend some time with you. I told Sam a while back, watch this 27 quarterback class, as I was watching not just the Pop Houstons and Elijah Havens that he and I were both well aware of early on, but Malachi Zeigler up at Benton. I really like Carson Sellers at Alexandria Senior High, Parker Robinson up at Neville, and so there's a lot of depth there. Here, we've got Hudson Fields, who we're looking forward to seeing him as having his opportunity at the helm of that Brother Martin offense this year, and so awful lot of depth to this class beyond just the guys that have been at the top. And I think even some of the guys like a Malachi Zeigler, who had been kind of overlooked somewhat, looked at kind of the third fiddle of the group, he's come on now and has Power 4 programs all over the country interested in him and what he brings to the table. And we haven't seen a ton of quarterback classes like that. We had Arch and Eli Holstein and Ricky Collins and those guys in 23 that garnered a lot of headlines. Is this the best Louisiana quarterback class we've ever seen? And I do think 27 is right there in that conversation.
And finally, you're talking about the 27 class. Elijah Haven is at Dunham. It's in Baton Rouge. Some recruiting services have him as like the #1 recruit in America. Is this going to be like a Derek Stingley Jr. kind of thing, that the pull of Baton Rouge will be so tough on Haven? And I mentioned Derek Stingley because he went to Dunham, and so is Elijah. Have you got any early feel on a sway on Elijah, or is it completely wide open?
I know he has great relationships over there. He and his family love Joe Sloan. They've spent a ton of time over at LSU's campus. It's right down Perkins Road. It's an easy trip over there toward campus. But he's got some great options and schools that are continuing to come into the mix. Michigan and Florida have been big with him. Ohio State and Clemson have started to kind of ramp some things up. And LSU has had kind of a core group of 27 quarterbacks around the country that right now feels like Elijah there in Baton Rouge, Peyton Houston up in Shreveport area at Evangel Christian, who similarly has great options all over the country, and then a familiar name from our previous segment, a young Nussmeier, Colton Nussmeier out there at Marcus High in Texas, Garrett's younger brother. And so those three have kind of become the forefront, the top tier of quarterback targets for LSU in that 27 class, and they would love to get two of them. We'll see if two might be willing to be a part of the same class, but I think they are in solid position early on in the recruiting process for all of those guys.
All right, that was fantastic stuff. Jerit Roser, Louisiana versus all y'all. It's on X, it's on Instagram. He's got a YouTube page. He's got a website coming. Very busy man. Thank you, Jerit, for your time, sir.
My pleasure, Garland.